Hey, greetings. Welcome once again to Cookie. And today we're going to be looking at classes in Ruby. So most importantly, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, most importantly, reach out to me in the comments. I love to assist everybody. I love everyone assisting me as we go on this journey to get certifications in Ruby. And before we really want to get, once again, Ruby is the programming of language of choice when it comes to human friendliness. Developed in 1995, it was made for that reason. You can see very much of it in its control flow, the way it's structured, right? You can get much done with a line of code in Ruby. So let's get into today and learn how the complex is made simple with these classes, right? So classes are in any programming language, and classes in Ruby are just really neat structures that help us organize data in meaningful ways and place meanings to them. As you can see in this example, right, you have a class of language where you have the name and the creator, and then you have the description, right? So we say in language new, go ahead and ask for the description, right? With these two methods, right? Able to take this data and really able to express it in meaningful ways. Right, so with that said, let us go ahead and work with our classes here. So in order to create a class in Ruby, what we're going to have here, what we're going to have is our class, right? So we already have here is a simple class. This is how we make a class, right? Just how like a method would be def, a proc would be, a block would be do, and then end, right? Class, or that's why that's what makes Ruby so unique, right? Class and then end, right? We have class, right? So that is how we go ahead and make a basic class. Now, if you want to go ahead and initialize it, right, what we do is we take that class and give it an initialize. We're going to go ahead and give it an initialize method, right? You can see right here, right? So say, for example, every time we call language.new, or we say hash.new and give it an argument, this is what's actually going on, right? We give it that initialize, and what we have here is known as an instance variable, right? So hash new, the default value was supposed to be 0. It will go into default value with the @ symbol right in front of it, right? Referring, it doesn't have to, and they don't have to be equal. It could just be, it could be class name, it could be different names, and that's okay. It's just what matters is that the @ symbol goes in front of it. So now it is an instance of, so now that's a variable that associated with instance we call new, right? That data will come up from that class. And just remember, we cannot um access these directly. However, you can see here, right? I'm just going to uncomment this out, right? We cannot access these directly. We can't access these directly, right? We're going to have to use a method. But right, you can see with the initialize method, right? That's how we get things set up. Right, so with our methods, right, you can see we use methods, and when we're working in classes, we're using methods to access all the data that we need to gain access to. Let's go ahead and run the code. Right, so we go ahead and run our code, right? We have a new profession. It is carpenter, and say if you want to change that up, right? You want to say give, really just trying to lawyer. Right, go ahead and run that, right? We have two different classes, and this is the result of that initialize, right? So we have language, right? We could easily put this in the initialize language, and then we might have a string of a greeting in that language. So in my class, we have something like so. Right, so what another way to gain access to our global variables, right? This must have been early in the spec. This was earlier probably like in the earlier versions of Ruby. What we can have here is that we could define global variables, and this was probably made like so that say we have a variable that all the classes, all the instances of a class needs to refer to. This is just a global way of making it, right? And we need that class to work. Let's see if we need that class to be invoked. right? We need a new instance of it to work. Let's see if this will work by itself, right? Oh, it was able to work by itself, right? But then also I'm going to introduce class variables. We're going to see if that works later, right? So this was global variables, right? So just long as the class body was being set up, right? Then we have a global variable. But in programming, it's not good to use global variables. So I believe Ruby then came up with the class variable, right? And if we ask for the class name, we try to put out the class names, right? We're probably going to have an issue, right? Because right, we're going to have an issue because this is part of the class. That even so, this class variable is only accessible by the class. So even if you do class name, think it's something now everyone's going to access. That's not the way to do it. What we would do is we would say arc. We'd go ahead and use arc and use the method there. Arc.names. We call it 7, 7, and then nil, right? So class name is 7, and then the name, right? We didn't provide for one, right? And usually, yeah, usually with initialize, you don't have to provide, but we really should, right? We really should because that's how the class is supposed to be used. Or we could raise an error. We'll probably deal with that in another video. Right. So now in inheritance, right? Classes, right? You could build classes on top of classes. This is really, really, really neat. So say if we have creature, right? And then say we have dinosaur, dinosaur. Yeah, I think I spelled it right. I think it's S-A-U-R, right? Class dinosaur. And then class T-Rex, T-Rex, right? And then dinosaur, right? So what we have is the base class will be dinosaur, and the base class will be dinosaur for T-Rex. The base class to dinosaur would be creature, right? And then creature would be the base class, and this dinosaur would be the derived class of creature, and then T-Rex derived class of dinosaur, derived class of creature. So we go ahead and run. Oh, I think I don't know how to spell. That's why. Right? Yeah, I kind of know how to spell. We're to go ahead and run this code, dinosaur.new.